We're serious gamers.
Hello, folks. It appears since I did my Terrain Fest project that I didn't finish uploading, but turned out really well anyway. Apparently, I'm a terrain making expert now. So I was told about this particular project very recently, and I have, as of the time of recording, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks now, to actually finish it. But what is this project? Well, if you haven't seen by the thumbnail, I mean, who looks at thumbnails anyway, you know, algorithms and all that rubbish. I am building a segment of Arnhem Bridge. And I'm doing this because a bunch of our community members are coming over to play some games, and they wanted to do a Bridge Too Far. One of my favourite war movies, and also one of the hardest war movies to get through, because there's certain parts where you just fall asleep because it's a Sunday afternoon, you've just had your roast, a Bridge Too Far is on, and you watch the start of 30 Corps March, and then you wake up to the end of the film. At least that's my experience of a Bridge Too Far. It's a long film. It's excellent, but it's a long film. So what I have here is a bunch of 3D printed parts that Warren has thrown at me. Well, not physically thrown it, well, he did almost throw them at me from his Bamboo Labs printer, and it's a really nice quality printer. And what I've got here is a lot of... I've got a Lego set, because this breaks down into a lot of different parts here. So you can take this arch off, and it splits into two on both sides. The roadway itself is in these sort of rectangular segments that all need to work together, play nice, and make a big roadway. We've also got these pillars over here, and then if you come around here a bit more, Shay, then we have this other bit here which has two stairways that go either side of the roadway to gain access for pedestrians, or in this case, very angry paras, because that's just how that goes. So the challenges here currently are to make sure all the supports are removed. There's still a few supports left on some of the parts from the 3D print process. After that, it's then going to be deciding how I want to do it, because I want to try and glue the roadway as one singular piece and leave these big segments free floating so that we can store them, and that the bridge roadway can rest on these without too much hassle. Then there's going to be a lot of sanding and a lot of filling, particularly because I don't want to do what we would usually do with roadways, which is take some fine grit sandpaper and just glue it down like it's wallpaper. I don't like that because it starts to curl and peel and eventually looks like a complete arse. So I'm going to have to try and figure out a way of filling and smoothing the road surface to the point where it's good enough, and then we can use some weathering and do a little bit of battle damage to the bridge as well. That's where I'm at currently, so I'm going to go off and spend the next while pulling all the supports off, making sure everything's nice and tidy, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about how we're going to construct it. So I've taken all the supports off, I've cleaned up the print as best I can without going into any sort of sanding or anything like that, just making sure the parts are going to be sitting and fitting quite nicely. I have now moved on to constructing the roadway, and as you can see, we have this piece of wood here that is performing as the spine or the backbone for the roadway, because there isn't really any like connection points. There's nothing I can clip into, there's nothing on the underside of these parts that really allow me to slot pieces together. So using this as my backbone is going to give the roadway a very nice rigid appearance. It's not going to flex or anything like that. You might even be able to lean on it. Not that I would recommend that. So what I'm doing now is gluing one side of the roadway onto this, and I'm doing that because it's going to let me get my alignment correct. And currently the alignment is pretty decent. This along here is pretty nice, looks pretty straight. A little bit of sanding, a little bit of filling will sort any of my issues out. There is, you can see some problems with 3D printing in general, especially if you haven't quite got your temperatures right. You can see this piece here, which curls in to line up correctly, has peeled off the bed of the printer as the print was being made. That's okay. That's why we're doing it onto a big block of wood, because we've got plenty of surface to glue to, and we've got plenty of surface underneath that, that when we come to fill this gap, we're not worried about just dropping stuff in through all these gaps. So How am I doing it? We're using our top man. Top man. This is just a little block of offcut that we had lying around, and it aligns, because it's square, it makes a nice alignment tool for our roadway. So what I do is I slip it in there, it then bumps up against this face of the underside of the bridge. I can then push it, and as you can see, that has aligned, particularly those lines of rivets, perfectly. So what we do once we have our alignment is get super glue, and we're going to run a nice, decently heavy bead of that, not too close to the outer edge because we don't want top man to get some glue on him. So then we'll slide the piece of roadway back in and then press it down, and then we hold it firmly for a few seconds to allow that glue to spread this way and not back the way. Once that has pretty much set, just get a little coffee stirrer and just clean that edge up a little bit so that when we bring the other piece of roadway in, it's not riding up onto some of the super glue that's already here. It's another reason we're not going to be using activator on this, because this will cause ridges and alignment issues further down the line if we were to use activator on it. That now, in theory, is that piece of roadway in place. We then roll the whole thing over and we extract top man like the professional British powers that we are. Hehe. That's the plan. That's what we're doing right now. We're going to get this side of the roadway down and then start aligning off what's existing here with the other side. So when we come back, let's say all the roadway is down and we'll be ready for a little bit of filling and repairs. All right, so about a couple hours work showing you, after I showed you how to put the road segments on and got them all lined up, we now have the bridge pretty much together. There's still a few bits and bobs that need to be modified and a few bits that need to change and a few other repairs that need to happen. So primary repairs are going to be on all this railing that's here. I've already clipped off the bits that don't quite work or didn't quite print properly. So I have these gaps that I need to fill, and I'm going to be using some matches for that because the matches are almost the correct size. If I bring one down there, they're almost a correct fit for the size of the railing. So that's fine. The other thing then is to start filling the road surface in. And there's a fair amount of gappage, as you can see there. I've already been working underneath the model to make sure that my filler doesn't just drip through and cause a complete mess. So I'm going to be using polyfiller because it's nice and creamy and smooth and nice. Let's play with it. So that'll fill the road surface, then we'll be able to sand that down and get a nice smooth surface ready to put the rest of the railings together and then start working on the road surface. So if I show you what I've done underneath, these are not glued yet because we'll do that after the filler. Let's lift the whole road section off and rotate it over, and I'm just going to set it down here in front of me. So as you can see, we have our big spine. I've used coffee stirrers to bridge some of the gaps. Some of the smaller gaps I've just put some super glue onto and then just hit them with a bit of activator just to seal that off. It just hopefully prevents a bit of a mess. The other stuff I've done is this is all now one continuous piece. It's all been lined up correctly and set with all its heights and everything, so we know that all fits. The one problem that we have going forward is this. This is too tall. I believe that's because maybe the model has been designed so that there's a drop in terrain, which would bring that into line with the bottom of the roadway. It unfortunately doesn't do that, so these two T sections up here on the top are going to have to be trimmed, shortened, and then re-glued. So the plan really is to make sure the bridge is nice and level, completely level. In fact, we might even need a spirit level for that. Measure up how much of that needs to be clipped, chop it, then trim it down until we're at the right level, and then glue it all back together. That should retain how it looks, as well as make sure the bridge is level. So with that all said and done, it's going to be polyfiller for the rest of today. Then we're going to have to let that dry and then hit it with a lot of sanding after that. So I'll show you a little bit of that as some B-roll, just applying the polyfiller, and then we'll get to the sanding. So hopefully the next time I'm talking, the road surface will actually be smooth. So a couple of days after I said I was putting the polyfiller down on the bridge and sanding it all down and making it nice and repairing some of the railings, this is where we're at. So the bridge is now complete. It's smooth as a baby's bottom, sorta. It's still a little bit nifty in places. I think nifty is a fine word for it. There's a little bit more filling to do. There's a couple of gaps I'm really not happy with, which I'm gonna have to sort out, which are sort of mostly these two joins here. But that's fine. I'll grab a bit of something and fill those gaps up. But overall, the bridge is looking pretty decent. The railings came together quite nice. Those matchsticks were a very tight, very tight fit for the 3D printed parts that failed. Where are we at now? Well, this is going to be fun because we're now on the final run up to our community members coming over and actually using the bridge. And as you can see, it is neither primed nor glued together. So there's a few things that need to be sorted. First, I need to fill those two gaps. Second, we need to glue these pieces on because they're all going to be primed as one color. The third and more annoying aspect of it is this. This should be under these two sort of runners, and as you can see, it won't do that. So it's not really ideal. I have a feeling that the model creator was expecting a sort of step down on the tables. I've maybe mentioned that before. So what I'm going to try and do is basically take these two T-junction pieces off entirely, just get rid of them, and build up with a bit of foam core a more correct height. It's only going to be about 5 to 7 mil tall in the end. So there wouldn't be much point in trying to save these because we'd lose so much of them. We may as well just make a little platform for the bridge to rest on. It's a bit of an annoyance having to modify something like that drastically. However, to let it sit nice and level on this table, it's kind of what I need to do. I also understand that the bridge should kind of sit at slightly bit of an angle, but because we're building up or our fellas that are coming over to play are going to build up an embankment on one end of the bridge, it's better we just have it modeled so that it's going to sit level. That way it's not overbalancing, it's not doing anything weird. And yeah, that's where we're at. So what I have to do is take a razor saw to that end, make sure that fits underneath the end of the bridge, fill the two little gaps, glue these two pieces of girders on, and then I think we're about ready for priming. Priming is going to be the biggest step, and it's going to let me see exactly how this bridge is going to look once it's all weathered down as well. Because once everything's in one color, you can see every flaw. It's great, great, I love it. After that, then it's going to be a lot of airbrushing work and maybe some artist acrylics just to get the road surface down. Have been talking with the fellas and saying, what is this road surface? Because different countries in the 30s and 40s did things differently in their road systems. Apparently this bridge is asphalt. Whereas a lot of other countries, particularly Germany, funnily enough, would have used a lot of concrete and sort of poured big slabs of concrete to make their roads, like the Autobahn and stuff like that. So it looks like we're going asphalt for the road, and after that it's going to be a lot of weathering and smaller detail work. Trying to get it as good as possible, as quick as possible, is certainly a challenge, but hopefully it's one that I'm set up to do and handle, and will give them something good in the end. So when you come back, I'll do a little bit of B-roll. There's also going to be B-roll playing in the background here as I'm talking, because the sanding process wasn't quite the way I described it initially. What I did was filled the gaps. Then once the gaps were filled, I took more of the polyfiller, watered it down with water, and then gave the entire road surface a coat of it. That way we were filling in a lot of the print lines, because there are some visible print lines, and you can see after sanding just how visible and how uneven that surface initially was. Even though it looks kind of smooth, once it's all glued down, it does look a little bit different. And once you have it all sanded, we have something that should look pretty decent once it takes a bit of paint to it. Right, without further ado, more B-roll time, and let's continue this panic attack that is Arnhem Bridge. Well, another few hours have passed. For you guys, just a few seconds, and the bridge is now primed. The primer we used was oh, what was it? Mechanica Standard Grey, just the Citadel Grey. It's a good base color for just something that is painted steel and a lot of concrete. What I'm moving on to now is trying to get some shading and stuff onto the model. So the first thing we need to do is take our little wooden shed over here and drop that. And what we're going to be using here is 2 cans of random grey that I found. One of them is Halford's Grey Primer, which is a nice good staple. The other one is Colourforge Ghoul Grey, which is slightly lighter than this. I wanted to go with these two because the like the Grey Seer, the Citadel Grey Seer, is a little bit too bright for this. So what we need to do is A, pray there's enough paint in the cans, and B, start to sort of kind of dust it with both of these. So more with the Halford's Grey because it's a slightly darker grey than the other one. So what I'm going to do is just that over all the steelwork. Like that. And then what we'll also do is take it down over the concrete stuff, so sort of highlight the stairs and stuff like that a little bit as well. We'll work around the model and try and do that as best I can. Then with the lighter grey, what we'll do is exactly the same thing, but a little bit lighter. You see that's quite a difference between the two. So what I'm trying to do is basically take away from that bluish grey that we already have from the base primer and then work up a little bit. After that, it's going to be down to applying a darker grey, almost a black for the road surface. Then we get the fun stuff. We're going to do a bit of airbrushing to add some colour, add some weathering and stuff to it. So I'm going to get on with this, and fingers crossed that my primer holds out. So I'm on to the weathering step. However, I didn't quite explain what I was doing with the road surface. You've seen a little bit of that. So as you can see, we have our road surface down as asphalt. The colour I used for this was a little weird. Very weird. In fact, it's actually a very dark purple. And I don't know why, but it's a lot of black primer mixed with some old shade stuff that we had lying around. And the colour is actually kind of purple. You can see it more clearly on the stick there. And that seems to have worked really well as a good asphalt colour. So there's something to learn and to take forward, is that a good asphalt colour is actually a very dark purple. On to the weathering step. Now, I'm not sticking to any particular paint brand here, and I found a load of stuff that we used to use a long time ago, if you're an old veteran of the channel. Comart, these are just really thin airbrush ready paints, and this is their light rust, and it is doing absolute wonders for the grey. And as you can see, if Shay can pan down along this end here, you can see what that's doing for our steelwork, and it's just giving it a little more texture, a little more definition. I don't have the time to really sort of get really stuck into it and add all sorts of really cool effects and stuff like that, so I think a little bit of a light rust effect is going to do the trick the best way possible. So if my lovely cameraman would come around to the other side, we'll quickly do a little bit and show you how it goes down. So I'll make sure my airbrush isn't blocked, which it's not. So let's have a look here first. So all I'm trying to do is just a little line along the panels, and then take in the row of rivets and bolts. And you can see it slowly starts to build up a really nice sort of kind of weathered look, and then we can run down in certain areas as well where some water has ran down off the side of the steelwork, and a little bit along the bottom too, but that's not too bad. That's what I'm doing for rust effects. The next step after that, I'm going to be turning my attention primarily to the brickwork. So we have 2 sections that have all this brickwork texture. I have a colour mixed up for that, which is in this little pot. This is kind of a mixture of a bunch of old army painter colours, so chaotic red, leather brown, oak brown and stuff like that, to try and give me a sort of decent red brick colour. That's going to get airbrushed onto the bricks. After that, we're going to take the polyfiller that we used to smooth the road surface down, and we're going to plaster all this in to get our grout. Then using a damp cloth, we're going to wipe it away again, so we have the red brick with white cement in between it. I think that's going to look quite striking. We're almost there. We just need to do a few more detailed bits and bobs here and there. And I'll come back to you when we have the majority of what I've just explained completely finished. Right, at this point, we can now see our brickwork is done. After the polyfiller dried, what I did was take a sponge with a bit of a scouring pad on it and just remove some of the excess and give it a wipe with a little damp cloth there just to clean it up a little bit. It's still not perfect, but it has everything we need it to have, so it's got that nice texture on there. We're going to be moving from that onto our cement work, so we have like a cement pad on the top of this, and we have this piece as well with all our stairs. For that, I'm just going to take the base grey that we have it sprayed in, that's including all the little highlighty and dusted parts, and we're going to start dry brushing it with a little bit of Brain Matter Beige. So I need to grab a little piece of plastic or something here. I'm just going to use that as a palette real quick. Squeeze out a good amount of this. And I'm going to be using one of Evil Eye's brushes. Nice, big, chunky brush. Looks very much like a makeup brush, which is absolutely perfect for this application. I'll sort it out there and make sure that's okay. Yep. Then it's just going to be a case of going over all the areas that we want to have this sort of concrete-y color and just bring it up from this grey that we have. So I just need to be a bit more rigorous than that. And start to brighten this up a little bit and make it look a bit more realistic. And vertical patterning like that is going to let it have a little bit of streaking in there in the dry brush as well, so that's going to work towards all the weathering as well. But for the time being, we're just going to get this bit done and then start shading it and adding a little bit of grime and dirt. So it is the end of the vlog and I'm here with all the clowns.
Wow. Wow.
And we're going to be showing them the table. They've been in for a while now and they've been doing a little bit of getting to learn Chain of Command. Apparently that's a very good game, I hear.
It's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, he says it's good. That's all right. But I've had the bridge covered since they arrived because I just didn't want to show them anything because I'm a tease like that. What is the plan for the weekend? Because there's a lot of stuff going on. Who wants to talk? Anyone want?
I'll talk soon as I organised most of it and made you do all this hard work. So it's Friday's a bit of a learning session, and then we're going to start the first part of Operation Market Garden. So for first Airborne, they're going to be coming in through Oosterbeek. 101st Airborne, they're trying to get to the Somme Bridge, and 30 Corps, which is Bob, are going to try and come up from Joe's Bridge and get to Valkenburg. And then through the rest of the weekend, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, we play different scenarios in and around Operation Market Garden. The table we've got today that you've graciously done for us is going to be for the Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, and we may wrap it into the big game we're going to do. We're going to do the big Chain of Command. I shan't use the abbreviation. Use your imagination, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, we should be doing that on the Sunday, and we'll probably involve the table then with that one as well.
So what are you aiming for? Are you aiming for accuracy, or are you aiming for a could the Allies have done it?
With the Sunday, we're going to play two scenarios. Depending on how people perform over the weekend, if the Allies win certain games, we'll give advantages. One of the great things with Chain of Command is it's not equal forces. There's a bit of asymmetry there in the fact that you roll for support points. But if they roll really well, they'll get more support points. But equally, if they win on a scenario, there are baked in additional support points or additional support elements. So, for instance, if 30 Corps break through, they might get Sherman tank appearing. Likewise, if the Germans stop them, the Germans might be bringing their Tiger tanks from the railhead a little bit quicker. So it's those sort of things.
All right. Well, I assume you don't need to see the bridge then, do you? No one's going to be on the bridge, so you don't need to see it.
I think
No?
the Recce Battalion from 9th SS, I think, are already parked on the bridge, blown up, aren't they, by now?
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong. Well, shall we show the bridge? Shall we let everyone see it? Right? Yeah, sure. Okay.
Do we do a round of applause while we're
But
doing
do you want a drum roll? Go on, drum roll. See if we can get it actually off. There we go.
Will we help you?
There you go.
There's a tiger.
Tiger.
That's a tiger tag.
Yes, that's a tiger in front. Yeah, absolutely.
Tiger in the movie. That's fantastic.
Well, it was a leopard in the movie, but it's still a big cat. That's all I'm thinking. So, opinions, thoughts? Anybody who wants to?
Spot on, mate. Absolutely spot
Yeah,
on.
done.
Brilliant.
That's amazing. Thanks, John.
You're gonna have to do the whole one now, John.
Yeah, we're probably going to have to do the whole one. But that's it. We'll get a load of B-roll and show off the thing actually properly for you guys viewing at home while these guys...
Amazing brickwork.
Yeah, while you guys drool at it and actually play on it, which will be nice. We'll show everyone at home what has actually gone into the bridge and they'll have been watching. You can always go home and watch the vlog afterwards and see yourselves standing awkwardly fondling me from behind. Yeah.
May have been me.
Strange people that we do things for, isn't it? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the vlog. These guys are going to go off and enjoy all the tables they've made. We'll maybe have another segment for them. We'll see what Justin feels like because he's participating as well. Yeah, there you go. So until next time, take care, stay safe, and see you again very soon.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.